Hey everyone, so I have my Blade 150S here. Now I had a little mishap. I crashed. It wasn't a big one, but I did crash, and it looks pretty good right now simply because I repaired it, but that's not what this video is about. But it kind of is. So what happened was I crashed. I broke a blade off of my tail right here, and I broke the blade grips and bent the feathering spindle in here. So I replaced all that, fixed this, fixed that, and I thought I was good to go. I thought I was done. And then when I was kind of just testing things out, I noticed something wasn't right. Something still wasn't right. So get this out of the way. And what I ended up having was, I believe it's this servo right here. Notice how it wiggles. Let's see if I can get that good. I'm not even really pushing on it hard, it's wiggling. So these are nice metal gear servos, which is great, but unfortunately the cases on these things, they're not exactly the strongest cases possible. So they're just plastic. So metal gears gives you more strength, and now it seems that the gears aren't stripping, but the cases are cracking. And it looks like it's breaking right on these ears where it connects. I don't know you can see that or not, but you can see how it wiggles. Anyways, well, let me show you, I guess this one. This is how it should look. I push on it and it's pretty much rock solid. It's really resisting me. Same thing with this one. If I can get a good picture of it. It's solid. It's not moving. I can just feel the difference, and then I go here and I could feel it's just shifting all over the place. It's not broken off yet, but it's there. And that's really what happened. So I thought I would make a video about how to replace a servo. And it's really not the hardest video. I mean, the hardest thing to do, probably the hardest part about it is these wires. Just undoing these screws and pulling the servo and putting in another one, centering it, is actually the easy part. I end up taking more of the helicopter apart just to feed this wire all through here and down into here. And then if you look under here, they made it nice, and this is the wrong way. I have to get into up here to attach the cable, the servo wire. Too bad there isn't a plug here too, and you just plug it, unplug it. I know there's a new version of this heli. This is not the smart version. It's pretty much the same heli, except I think this is different on the new version. So if you do have that one, I believe this is pretty much going to be the same instructions, except it's going to be a different box down here with more with electronics with telemetry. I believe that's the only difference. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to change out that servo and just show you. I'm not going to do the whole thing on camera. It would take too long. So I'm just going to show you the different steps and what it takes to replace it. And that should be it. Oh, and I'll just show you what could be done using, I guess you could say, other manufacturers. This is my Blade 180, and I have Linux servos in here, and they're metal geared and metal servos. So I wish Blade would release this, and these guys are really locked in here. This is aluminum, everything's aluminum. So I'm gonna see what happens. I haven't crashed this one yet, but we'll see what happens. But I wish this is what they would start making. This is what I wish Blade would start making. I had to use a different company's servos. I replaced all of them. You can see. All right, so the next step here is to center your servo. And this, in many cases, has to be done before you install it into the helicopter, because in many cases you're not able to get to this servo horn once it's installed. See if you can see that, it looks good. And you do that simply by removing this screw. You pull the horn off, and there's little splines in there, and you can adjust it. There's really a few ways to do this. I think I'm going to show you 3, or at least talk about 3. The first way is the simplest way, and it's really not very good, but it's obviously, it's very much the fastest. And what you can do is, I already centered this one, but you can kind of turn this one very carefully to its center, to its extreme, and look and see what it's oriented like, and then push it to the other extreme and see if it looks pretty much like the endpoints are almost the same on each side. And that kind of gives you an idea that it's generally centered. This one was only one spline off from when I got it out of the package, so it was actually pretty good. Other than that, yeah, I mean, don't ever use this method on a large helicopter, but on these tiny little micros, you can kind of get away with them, especially if you're in a bind. In fact, I'm pretty sure Blade is thinking that you can just take them right out of the package and install them. I don't really recommend that. This one was off by one spline, which isn't that bad. So you probably could have just taken it out of the package and made linkage adjustments. It wouldn't have been correct, but it probably would have worked. It would have flown and been generally okay. The second method is to actually plug it into your helicopter without it installed. Turn everything on. I would put your blade into your helicopter into hold mode, and put your helicopter down on a surface that's nice and level, because the swash plate is going to level, and try to get it to a point where all the servos seem nice and level and the whole swash plate is nice and level. And you're going to have it attached to this, and generally it should find something pretty close to center. Once again, I would never do this on a larger helicopter, but it's probably good enough for a small micro like this. So basically you're just going to plug this in just like all the others, except it's not installed in the helicopter, and get the helicopter nice and balanced so the swash plate is nice and level. And this one should find its center, and then center it based on that. You can even look at these. If they're off a little bit, like they're a little low, you would kind of orient it so how you're going to install it, and then pretty much try to get it to look like the others so that when you set up these linkages, they're all the same length. And that's the second method. You basically use the helicopter's own electronics to do that, to do the leveling for it, to do the centering for you. And then the third way is using external tools. You have a servo tester here, and basically what you're going to do is it comes, this is the plug you need to plug into most servos in and into the tester. This is the one you have here. So the servo tester, I believe, did come with an adapter. I believe it did. I'm not 100% sure on that. Well, you know what? You're probably not going to get the exact same one I have. So just keep in mind you may need an adapter like this one. All right, so now you're going to plug this one in with the signal wire up, and the servo falls into place. Now just showing you how this works real quick. It's you have a select button here, and it does three things. One is center pulse, which is what it is now, and 1500 is the center pulse. And then you have one where you turn the dial. Oh, that's center pulse. No, it didn't switch. I didn't push it hard enough. Then you have one where it just rotates on its own, and it gives you a little demonstration like that. And then you have another one, select again. Nope, didn't hit it hard enough. Where you actually turn the dial and change the frequency. You can see that. And if you notice, 2200 is the extreme in one direction. And then 800 is the extreme in the other direction. You can see that. And then the center is 1500, and that's another selection. See, I can do whatever I want with the dial, nothing happens. That's my center pulse. Now that I've got my center pulse on this, that is where the servo is centered. So I would just put that 90 degrees or perpendicular to the servo body, and that's how you center a servo with this tool. And that's pretty much all you have to do. And at this point, you just, reorient this, and you're pretty much ready to install the servo. And that's pretty much it with that method. This is the one I prefer, and these aren't that expensive. Okay, in this part, we're actually going to get into the mechanical part where we take things apart and everything. So what I already did was, I'll show you, make sure there's plenty of light. There's a screw here, and a screw right here. Ooh, you probably can't see this. And then a screw here, and there's one, the other one was right here, and it holds the bottom plastic brace on. And the same thing over here. There's one here, and then there's, oh yeah, you can see this much better, huh? Let's see, and there's one here and here. And and I also loosened these two up on the landing gear because it was sort of binding. But anyways, what this allows me to do is, so I'm leaving these screws in, but I'm loosening them, and I'm removing these, and I just loosen these up a bunch. So now that's loose, and now I can pull this down. See how I'm doing that? I can just pull it down, and I can get in there now. I don't know if there's enough light, but now I can get in there, and using needle nose pliers, I can essentially detach and reattach that connector. And just be careful, there's numbers on them. 1 to 6. Just note the one you take out so you don't get mixed up. Because there is one empty port right there, so you could get mixed up. So just, when you take it out, remember which one you pulled out. So that's that. Now next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out these screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is going to allow me to kind of lift this up just a little bit. And then you go to the servo, and we're going to take out this one hiding in here. You can see that. I don't know if there's enough light, right under, and then right on top, and then he comes right out. Probably going to have to take this off, possibly, and pop this guy off too. And that should get the servo out. And then the wire runs in here. It goes down through, it pretty much goes here and back. And then it runs around here and down. And there was a zip tie here I chopped off. And it's going to just run down into the bottom area right there. And that's all you got to do. And then you got to kind of play with needle nose pliers and things like that, and just kind of route that wire in between. Don't let the wire get pinched by anything. And when the wire goes over carbon fiber, these edges right here, you may need to put a little piece of clear tape, because this edge over time, it's kind of sharp. It will bite into the wire as the whole machine vibrates, and it will slowly start working its way into the wire, and the edges of these plates are conductive, so it could short something out and cause a crash. So that's what I'm going to do next, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I removed the servo as I said I would, and I did exactly as I said. I did have to remove that back stabilizer for the splash plate here. So that came off, the 5 screws I believe, and the 2 screws there, and it came right out. I just popped this up. I just lifted it up a little bit, just a little bit, and it slid right out. Very easy. It was number 3, this servo right here. And that's that. And then last thing I do is I take my new and my old servo, and I kind of orient them the same, and I see, do they look right? And it looks like the horn is on right. This is the shaft side. Orient them the same way, and they pretty much look, it's like they're good to go. And if you look at the bad servo, you can see the wing got broken off, and that's pretty much what happened. And there's the other wing, which is partially broken too. So that's what happened. Other than that, the bad servo, the gears seem fine, and I am muscling this a little bit more than I should, but I don't know what else I can do with this thing. I don't know if I can get, if you can even buy a new case for this or something. It's even possible. Would I want to get more plastic? I don't know. but it seems like the metal gears inside are just fine. And all right, so then after that, I pretty much feed the new servo in exactly as I took the old one out. All right, so I put everything back together and it's pretty much done. Just a few things to note. So I'll show you what I did, what it looks like. There it is, and you can see that one's really solid now too. Put all my screws, nope, that's the wrong side. Put all my screws back in. These guys are back in. This is back on. This is reattached, those are back. That I think I told you is back. Yeah, so it's all done. A few things to note. Screws 1, 2, and then right here 3. Let me get the. So it's the 2 servo screws, 1 and 1 under here, and then the one right beside it there. These all go into this metal bracket here. So when you put them in, you use Loctite, blue Loctite, not red Loctite, blue Loctite, and use just a tiny bit. You just put a tiny bit on the tip of the screw. That's it, not a lot. You don't drench the screw in it. Just a tiny bit. You don't want it getting into bearings or anything. So you just put a tiny bit on the tip and then you drive those in. These screws here, 1, 2, 3, 4, go into plastic. You do not use Loctite for those. So keep that in mind. Loctite, blue Loctite for metal, especially aluminum, and no Loctite when you're driving into this plastic bracket here. So no Loctite for plastic. Another thing to note, put this here, is just some of the tools I'm using. So these are normal pliers, all right? And I guess you could use these, but generally these are the ones that I used to run the wires. They're much longer and just much thinner. Just to give you a comparison on the two. And maybe I can find a link where I got these if people want to know. They're just much thinner and easier to use, and they really get into places. And that's that. Other than that, just remember to put your zip ties back where they were, and that's pretty much it. The next step is to level the swash plate. And it will need to be re-leveled when you do a mechanical, when you replace parts like this. But I'm not going to do it in this video because this video is already way too long. So the next video probably will be about leveling swash plates after you have a crash or you need to replace parts. And that's it for this one. All right. Thanks, everyone.